It only takes one spark, one insight, one idea to create the exponential growth you desire. Welcome to the Growth Mode Podcast, where we share the strategies for your growth. Hey, welcome back to the Growth Mode Podcast. Thank you so much for being a part of this. This is, I think, episode number 5 or 6. So, Jason, it's you and I today, and I want to do a short, focused show based upon some data that we're seeing amongst our coaching members. And then a third one, which I believe is going to be the future of growth. And I really want to get your input on it. So for my friend that's listening right now, I would love wherever you are, wherever you're listening to this, are you flat with the market? Are you up compared to the market? Are you down compared to the market? Now, notice I didn't say to your plan. I asked, are you up compared to the market? Are you flat compared to the market? Are you down compared to the market? And obviously, if you're listening to this show, the whole ambition that Jimmy and Jason and I have is to just create the unlocks, the opportunities for you to be in growth. I don't believe, Jason, and this may be controversial, I don't believe that there are good and bad markets. I believe there's just the market,
right?
And that what we do with the market, and that's what matters most. So obviously, as we're getting ready, Jason, for the summit, I've asked my team to do some surveys to look at, broadly all of our clients around the world, kind of trying to, if you will, bucket them into, what seems to be creating the most growth. So I'm going to share with you, literally by reading this, what we've seen. The first one is, if we ask the question, who's growing right now? It is the well-managed teams who are using every tool, training at their disposal to increase conversion from whatever platform they're generating leads from. And again, you and I both know that there's maybe 1,400 largish teams in the country, if I'm referring to the US where we have the most data. And there's probably another, call it 4,000 or 5,000 teams that are, you and I, two friends, a partnership, a mom and dad, etc. Right? The vast majority of teams are really small. So I'm referring to the larger teams that have scaled sales forces that are potentially arbitraging, whether it's realtor.com or Google or Rocket or Redfin or Zillow or any other portal. And what we're seeing with this group is, they might be paying large referral fees, right? Depending upon the model that they're in. But what we're seeing is they're generating enormous databases. And you and I both know if you're nurturing your database right, you're generating clients today that are buying and selling with you that you got as a lead 5 years ago, 7 years ago, 4 years ago. So they're winning on two fronts. They're winning because they're controlling, if you will, a percentage of the online leads directly to their team. And they're utilizing the right training and the tools to make sure that they're killing the leakage, if you will.
Yeah,
they're
totally.
not losing as many customers. They're trying to win more customers. And they're paying referral fees, but the smart real estate team leaders today run a tight ship and they're making a lot of money right now. So that's the first group. Before I go into the second one, I'm just curious, you coach a lot of great people. What's your take on that?
So I wrote down enterprise Salesforce teams leveraging channel accounts. I've said this in coaching as long as I've been coaching with my clients, that if you're going to have a large team, you've got to have a means of supplying opportunities to those agents. They have hungry mouths that need to be fed. You have to have a channel account. Most of your channel accounts, we're talking about VIP, Flex, typically online leads, the third-party game. I think you do see in some cases, every now and again, you'll see a large team like Ken Pozek, who's leveraging organic YouTube, and he's generating as many, if not more, leads with no success fee attached to it, which is a remarkable feat. But I think the mindset you should have, if somebody's watching or listening right now, you're thinking, I want to have a sales force that I manage. You've got to be thinking about channel accounts. You cannot have a Salesforce enterprise system without channel accounts. And to your point, Tom, if you're not building for leakage, then it's all for naught, because you made a comment like, hey, how they're getting the biggest database. The sales cycle and the conversion window in real estate is not quick. I think a lot of agents get into this business that, they're going to buy a house tomorrow. It's never a tomorrow type of decision. It's oftentimes a 6 months from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, 5 years from now. So I think you've got to have those systems in there. If you're the team leader and you're thinking about how do I solve the leakage problem? One, it's a training issue. You've got to make sure they understand the game. Tom, I'm curious what you think about this too. I find when I'm working with teams, very often they're promised leads, but they have very little understanding of how those leads show up. It's just like this magic genie, and then poof, there's a lead all of a sudden, and they don't understand the game. And so, what I've always focused on when I'm coaching teams like this is helping the sales force understand how do you meet that lead where they are, that contact where they are, so you can understand what got them there, and then plot the course for their trajectory in terms of where they're going, because that's how you figure out how to nurture them long term versus only relying upon sort of a in the box mentality of, oh, they want this, they want that. And so I think this is a great way to grow. A lot of the teams we're seeing in our ecosystem, I'm thinking about Trey Willard's team. I'm thinking about Ken Pozek. I'm thinking about Jay Pitts. Thinking about a lot of these large teams. If I look at their data, they're outperforming the market. And I love what you said, Tom, about, hey, it's not what's your plan.
Yeah.
Plans change. Markets are markets, and markets, a plan is just your response to the market. So if the
Yeah.
market changes, your plan changes. But I think that the gauge of how are you measuring up to the market? Are you falling behind? Are you gaining market share? These are the times, especially where you can gain just critical mass. You can gain mind share in the marketplace by doubling down. I love that mentality. And so a lot of the teams we work with, they're gaining more and more market share. Why? Because the consumer is looking for a better quality experience. If you look at the data from 1000 Watt that we talked about, I believe on last week's show, we were talking about the consumer desires to understand the process. And so 1000 Watts had this really great strategy of you need to productize your services. This is our first time buyer kit. This is our upsizer seller kit. And so I think a lot of these teams are figuring out how to effectively put the process into a box, train their sales force on it, and then help people move people through that funnel, so to speak. And so they got a lot of leads coming in. They're driving them through a process. They're running a machine. I think it's what it takes. But I love this approach of growth, and it's consistent, Tom, with what I'm seeing in the clients I'm working with personally.
It's funny you mentioned those 3, and I was thinking about, like, Jill Biggs in Hoboken, Jamie McMartin in, Katy, Houston area,
Yeah.
Stephanie Younger in Los Angeles, and it's the same, right? It is the ability to, hire, train, develop a team, to run it effectively, to utilize systems to not be pulling your hair out all the time. And all 3 of those women I just mentioned are outperforming the market. And that's the game. So we know that the vast majority of people, Jason, are not going to build a team. So for my friend that's listening right now, if you're like, oh my goodness, like, please tell me the show's not about teams. That's just one category. I've got 2 more for you. Actually, really my third one is a bet on the future, and I'm
Mm,
super curious how Jason's gonna respond. So the second group that my team identified, I'm having a hard time, Jason, describing it other
yeah.
than, the marketing prospector. Now you and I could debate prospecting all day long, right? But it starts with the person that is doing the emails, creating social. They're building a brand. They're becoming recognizable in their market, even with how much confusion there is today on social. This person is consistently doing the thing that is having them become that sort of recognized person in the marketplace. And,
Right.
we could talk for days on that. I think the one that you get probably a little hung up on is prospecting. So I
Yeah. Yeah.
say that you've known me for a long time. I'm always prospecting. I could be at a social function and I'm prospecting. I could be hanging out with my family and somehow I'm prospecting. And I could also be making phone calls. That there's no wrong way to do it. Some people, Kurt Kessel, who you work with Kirk and Dwayne. Kirk's my best
Yeah.
friend, right? Dwayne is not a social animal.
Yeah. This is a great example.
He's going to be very specific about what he does to generate, nurture, and convert. Where Kirk, if we took Kirk and we put him in the middle of nowhere, within 14 minutes, he would have 9 friends. He would have 3 referrals. He would have at least 1 contract. He is just that social monster. So I call this person the prospecting marketer, the marketing prospector. That they've got their favorite way that they put themselves out there. Could be direct
Yeah.
mail, could be Instagram, could be podcasts, could be video short form, it could be calling expireds, it could be knocking on doors, Andy C, it could be open houses. But what they've done is they've solved what I think is one of the biggest problems that that not just real estate agents, but businesses face,
Right.
which is, okay, I can market a little bit and prospect a lot, and I'm gonna do okay because I'm gonna just sheer force, sheer numbers, someone is going to say yes. But if I get myself out there and I become somewhat recognizable, and then I quote unquote prospect on top of it, now they're like, I think of my client Maxine Gellens, right? God bless Maxine, right? She's in La Jolla, California. I talk about her all the time. You've met her before, Jason. She called me one day and she's like, okay, coach,
Hmm.
I got this buyer. They want to live in my neighborhood. And
Right.
I'm thinking about knocking on doors in the 114, homes in my subdivision and finding out. I said, Maxine, I said, first of all, and she had to be probably 79 or 80 when she was saying this. And
Okay.
it was so cute. Like, put together your flyer on your buyer and go knock on all the doors. And about every fifth door, people would go, oh my God, you're Maxine Gallons. They were blown away that this force of nature for, 30, 40 years in the La Jolla, Del Mar, Rancho
Got
Santa
it.
Fe, like in this marketplace was actually out knocking on doors. So that's my second category. When I look at like who's winning, you can call it the prospecting marketer, the marketing prospector. You can throw networker inside that, but they're doing something to shake the tree and they're creating a brand simultaneously, and that's why they're winning. What say you?
Yeah. Yeah, so a lot of thoughts come to mind. The first is the need to reinforce repetition. The results are always in the repetition. So we've seen, you mentioned a lot of open houses, video, social media, email. There's no wrong way or right way to do it. It's a matter of picking a path and staying consistent with it. If you want your marketing to perform, you've just got to be consistent. Now, I'll balance that out with saying there is an effect of I see you everywhere. I see your signs, I see your videos, I see your ads. And so I think a lot of people who are probably watching and listening, that's the one that makes them feel, oh, this burden of I've got to do all these things and I lack the time. And what I would encourage you is you need to be 80% consistent in the one thing that's going to be your superpower. What are you going to be best known for in your marketplace? If I think about a Gary Ashton, billboards are a big piece of that. If I think about a Shannon Mangan, Instagram videos are huge. If I think about a Shannon Gillette, it's video and it's YouTube. Like they all have their superpowers where they're pouring in 80% of their energy. And then the 20% I think is scattered across. Maybe you run some ads on Meta or the display network or YouTube ads, or you diversify your marketing so that you can tap into this. It's called the frequency illusion, where when a consumer starts to see your marketing in more than one place, it creates this illusion that they're seeing and hearing from you more often than they really are. I see you everywhere. It doesn't take a lot to get to I see you everywhere. It takes 80% of the one thing that you got a nail and a hammer and you're going to hit it and just drive it home. And then it's 20% of sprinkling in some other channels that are going to give you that I see you everywhere effect. So that when you're like Max and Gellens and you go door knocking, people are flabbergasted that you're at their front door because to them, you're a hometown celebrity, so to speak. And so I think that this idea of combining marketing and prospecting, it makes sense. And here's like a agricultural analogy to explain why. If you're going to be in the business of, I guess having, is it an orchard? What do they call grapes? Grape. What do they call those?
Grapevines, but I'm trying to get you. You're going like for a metaphor on
Yeah, yeah,
creating.
yeah. So like, what happens if you
I
leave a
should
grape?
know this, Jason.
Yeah, I don't know. You're from California. You're supposed to know these things. What happens if you
I
leave a
was
grape?
going with that I co-own a wine.
This is also
I
true,
still don't
Tom.
know. Yes.
Clearly, you're not out there doing the work, but that's okay. If you leave a grape on the vine, it will wither away and die.
Yes.
And so I think about that as this metaphor into you can do all the marketing in the world. You can send amazing emails, you can do unbelievable postcards, you can do crazy awesome videos, and you will catch some opportunities. But the vast majority of them are going to wither and die on the vine unless you go and harvest the crop. You've got to go take like, and that to me, the metaphor is you got to go do the door knocking, make the calls so that you can elicit those, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're here types of responses. That to me is how you cash in on all the cachet you've been creating through your marketing. Does that make sense, Tom?
100%. And I think for my friend watching, listen, the one thing I understand, the one thing I know to be true as a business owner is it's all hard. It's hard. It's hard to add something new to my business. It's hard to, try and for me, Jason, to have several hundred people suddenly start to go slightly left, right?
Yeah.
Let alone, hard for me to remain consistent and do the things that I know ultimately put my brand on steroids and attract more customers and, do all the things that I want to do. So for my friend listening, it's all hard. I get it. But what I know is really hard is what happens when you're inconsistent.
Hmm.
That's what's really hard. So, I've said it a million different ways before. Like you got to choose your heart. You got to just say, all right, what are my 5 to 6 non-negotiables every,
Yeah.
and if I can just stick to those, and of course, we're all going to have 1,000 distractions. We're all going to have 1,000 things come at us. We're going to have a deal go together that you want to celebrate. You're going to have a deal that, falls apart that just, you feel like it's the end of the world. But if you could just stick to one of those 4 or 5 things, and I think Jason, you said it perfectly. Most of them, they put 80% of their effort into one thing. And again, that could literally be calling expireds.
Could be.
That could be open houses.
Could be.
Could be doing Instagram reels. There's no wrong way to do it. I think the challenge that a lot of people face beyond what we're just expressing here, maybe I'm trying to express here, is it is hard. I get it. It's picking the right thing. So
It,
Jason, if you were coaching me right now and I was like, "Oh, it's hard, man. Like, I get it. I know I should, but I just, I'm trying this and I'm trying that, and I'm trying this, and I don't know which way to go. And I'm listening to this show. And should I start a team? Should I be a solo agent? How do we become a brand, prospector?"
yeah.
What questions would you say the person listening should ask themselves?
I love that
And what
setup.
80% is.
I love that setup. I think the first uh, moment of clarity that needs to be achieved in everybody is determining, okay, what is my expectation? Let's say, for example, you choose, hey, my 80% consistent marketing play is going to be Instagram Reels. I'm going to do like Shannon Manjan, and I'm going to just make value add reels that explain the process of selling my house or something like that. Or it could be market updates, or it could be property tours. I don't want to split hairs on what it is. I would ask this question of you: what is your goal in producing these videos? And this is where I think a lot of agents become a little bit, they lose faith, they lose confidence if it's working or not, because they don't have the right understanding of expectations. They think, I want to get clients, I want to get
Right.
buyers and sellers. And I'll give you a silly little sports analogy this time. Um, if we're playing football, it's sure you want to score touchdowns, but the way to get touchdowns is first downs. So you have to identify what's the next first down. Well, in the game of Instagram, really what I want to do is build an audience who starts and wants to listen to me. I want to create thought leadership over an audience. Well, how do I measure the success of that? Am I gaining followers? Are they commenting? Are they sharing? Are they watching? And then I start to see qualitative signals, like people start recognizing me around town because I'm offering value to an audience. And I think a lot of people in the world of marketing, they miss this. You can't get leads unless you have an audience. You make an offer to an audience to generate leads. Now, think about this. A lot of you are like, well, I can buy leads. Well, yeah, because you're bypassing the marketing that they did. They built the audience to be able to make those offers and then sell you the lead for a 40% success fee or whatever it is. And so, honestly, it's like everybody's a marketer prospector or whatever badge or term you want to give to this. Whether it's a third-party aggregator that's selling you leads, they're a marketer they're just making you the prospector of that, but they're the ones who are creating the consideration. And so I think, if I'm being abstract, help me clarify here, Tom, but what I would say is it could be videos, it could be emails, it could be door knocking, it could be postcards. What's going to be your superpower that you lean into? But you've got to get clear on, what is this doing for me? And I think a lot of people just get sort of like frustrated when it's not just generating leads directly. Well, maybe that's not the job. Maybe it's the predictive measure that is the step before all those leads. I think about Gary Vaynerchuk, jab, jab, right hook. You got to give, 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 and then you can make an offer. And so to me, it's like, what are you going to do to build an audience who respects you and regards you as their local authority in all things real estate? They just know that you are the leading authority on real estate. It could be about condos. It could be about luxury. It could be about military moves. It could be about, like, what are you going to be the domain of? I am the standard that people look to on understanding how to make a move or buy, sell, etc. on this subject in my marketplace. Is that, I don't know if I'm going all over the place. Help me focus it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand everything you're saying, and I think it's a lot. I think the person listening is probably gonna struggle. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
refocus it and say to my friend out there watching, the first thing I would start with is what have you done in the past that every time you X enough, Y happens? You
Mm,
know, like it's not I knocked on a door and it didn't work. It's I knocked on 500 doors and I generated 7 leads and I got 1 listing from it. The moment I can now say every time I X, I generate Y, at least now I can measure the performance. I've got more certainty about it.
yeah.
So I think it's going to be hard, Jason, if someone says, okay, well, I'm going to start shooting Instagram reels to build an audience. Yes, I think they should do that. And yes, I think you could do that. But when I look back at many of the most successful agents that continue to scale, they had some fundamentals in place first, right? And whether that was,
Yeah.
I'm going to build an audience through my past clients and centers of influence,
Absolutely.
and I'm going to create content specifically for them.
Yep.
Um, I think even if the person listening, my goodness, if you just sent 2 CMAs a day, 2
Right.
CMAs a day to 2 people that are either former clients of yours, clients, or in your sphere or prospects. If you just did 2 of those a day, call it compounded over 240 days, and you're sending out sub 500 CMAs. I have a feeling from that, you'd get somewhere between 10 to 15 listings minimum, minimum.
Tom,
Spot
here's how I think the marketing prospector fits into that.
right.
So let's say you're doing your 2 CMAs a day, but let's say you also commit to say, you know what? No sphere of influence contact left behind. Everybody in my sphere is my number one priority. I'm laser focused. I'm not going to get distracted by all the other stuff. What if, in addition to the 2 CMAs a day, you did a weekly email newsletter that talked about the state of your local marketplace? So now I've got the marketing that's created consideration of my expertise. And then I have the prospecting, the 2 CMAs a day, where I'm talking to 2 people directly. I think the yin and yang of that is what generates opportunities. And I don't think it really matters whether it's open houses, door knocking, emails, anything you do, there's always going to be that I have to create consideration by offering value. I have to make an offer that allows the opportunity to come to me. It's always the 1-2.
100%. So I was looking at some data from my friends over at Live In Here. So how about this? 88% of consumers are interested in a monthly update on the value and pricing trends
Right.
in their neighborhood. 88%. And then the insight was only 17% of them actually received it. So I'm saying that for my friend who's like, well, I only have like, 293 people inside my database. And if I once I send them all one, well, they want one monthly. That's what the data shows. So if you did it, once a quarter, if you did it twice a year, you're going to be ahead of the curve. All right. I want to go
Yeah.
a different direction because I know we talked about maybe doing a short show today. So the first thing I said is we looked at who's growing and we said clearly it's teams that are arbitraging channels, right? Could be Rocket, could be Redfin, could be Google, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. And there's even teams that are doing this. You know, Shout out to Dave Robles that's saying, I'm going to do it through geographic farms.
I mean,
The teams on my team, everybody has a geographic farm and they are literally doing old,
right.
beautiful relationship one-on-one farming. There's no wrong way to do it, but you got to give people channels. The second one is clearly the prospecting marketer, the marketing prospector, the yin and yang that works so well together. But the third one, I want to get your input on.
Yeah. Tell me.
If you ask me today, Tom, look into the crystal ball of the future of real estate agents. Which one would you bet on? Well, I wouldn't bet against the teams, and I wouldn't ever bet against the prospecting marketer. But what would make me put more chips on the table, I wrote down is I would bet more on the AI enhanced agent or team. The AI enhanced, the one that literally says, I'm going to be first and I'm going to be really fast on everything from, and here was my list from marketing and networking to building their brand to prospecting to follow up to nurture to convert to post transaction relationship management, that everything is going to be AI enhanced. So
Yes.
say that I'm not obviously talking to, the professor here. Um, where does someone start to become an AI enhanced agent?
Yeah. Yeah. That's the most important question. because here we're dealing with the subject that is so fast moving, so big, so comprehensive. It's easy just to kind of freeze and say, I don't know where to go next. So, what do I do first? I think what you do first is you follow your line of logic. You've got to decide what's that 80% look like. What is the thing you're going to be the most focused on? And I'm going to isolate my comments to, hey, we're focused on growth. So I could sit here and say, improve your process for how you deal with a new file. I could offer you those types of things, but I'm going to be focused on growth. And so we said that the future, or those who are growing right now, include these enterprise Salesforce teams that are efficient. So the question is, where do they start with AI? And then the other is maybe not the team per se, but the marketing, prospecting, or whatever that balance is, agent. Where do they start with AI? So I think the first step is you got to decide, what's my path for growth look like? Who am I going to be? What's my future? And then I would say, well, if you're a team and you're that first model, the enterprise Salesforce team with channel accounts, I say you go looking for the leakage. Where is the leakage now? And how can AI start to plug those leaks? So let's just bat it out. Where do these teams tend to fail? I think they fail in speed to lead. I think they fail in personalization when it comes to, how do I stay with a lead that's not going to convert for the next few years? Tom, you and I were having a phone call the other day about this, and we were talking about, agents have their 1, 2, like, make this offer, just listed, just sold, or they might say like, hey, check out this, or do you want this? But eventually those little offers start to run dry because they get old. And that's where I think AI can be really useful. I'll give you an example. We were just talking about the market updates as a way to keep your sphere of influence informed. Well, how often can I do that market update? Well, actually, I could bet you that you could do it every day if you wanted to. And I'm not telling you to do it every day. I'm making the point where you could simply go to the MLS, run a search for, let's say that you want to dominate zip code 12345. You could run a search for all the activity in that marketplace and then download the results to a spreadsheet, which most MLSs let you do, and then drop it into your preferred AI large language model, whether it's ChatGPT, or I would recommend Claude for something like this, or Grok. Grok and Claude tend to be my preferred choices for data analysis. You could do Gemini as well. And you would simply ask it to say, hey, this is the MLS data in my market that I want to dominate as the local real estate agent who generates all the listings. My plan is to be able to send my sphere of influence contacts personalized and meaningful market update emails on a weekly basis. Give me 12 different ways I could slice up this and have different editions that it doesn't feel redundant or like I'm just saying the same thing over and over again. And then put the task of that analysis onto the AI. And so I think, Tom, if I was going to be specific, as much as I could be, you got to look at, okay, am I a team or am I the marketing prospecting agent? Depending upon that answer, okay, where do I have leakage? Where am I dropping the ball? And how could AI step into that and help me streamline and scale what I'm doing? Because the truth is, it can do so much. I mean, I guess it is hard to say, where do I start? Where do you start is you start telling ChatGPT about your business and saying, help me understand where to start. What were you going to say?
I'll tease you a bit. I think it all starts with curiosity, right? And I know, as I say to the person, well, what do you mean? Like, of course I'm curious. I'm listening to this show. Yes. But how curious can you be?
Yeah.
How many questions are you asking? I was talking to my brother Matthew about he and I are both spending at least 30 to 40 minutes every day creating a deep research piece.
Yeah.
Just to explore, just to be curious, starting, hey, the last 5 decades, what's happened in housing? But imagine if the listener today, you, my friend listening, imagine if you did that on every subdivision in your marketplace. Now, again, I'm not saying, hey, this is the end all be all. And by doing this, you're suddenly going to have, an unlimited number of listings and sales and your brand's going to be great. But I would argue you would be one of the smartest people in the room that you could literally spit, facts and data about every subdivision in the market. There could be some value in that, but curiosity is my first one. Here's my second one. Any redundant tasks, anything that I do repeatedly over and over again, whether it's once a month or once a day, AI is going to enhance it, to make it better, to make it faster, to make it more efficient, and possibly remove you from the equation.
Yeah.
Right. My third one was anything communication related, whether that is the written word, spoken word, right? Audio, video, etc. All of your marketing, the audacity to think in 2025 that you could write a better marketing piece
Yeah.
versus AI, to me, is just silly, right? The fact that we can now go to multiple, search the following websites and tell me what are the hottest trends today, and then take those trends and help me best, expose my audience to this or offer them
Yep.
like the fact that we have that much information at our fingertips, and to think that there are agents today that are literally writing their own listing description. Do you
I know.
I'm not believe me, my friend, I'm not razzing you. Um, but you know what I did recently, Jason? I'll give you an example,
I got one too.
a tangential thought,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Um, I went back and I plugged tomferry.com into Website Grader.
Mhm.
And if you don't, for my friend listening, if you haven't done this, go take your website, put it into Website Grader. It is a free tool brought to you by HubSpot. Yes, they will ask for your email address. Yes, you will be in a marketing funnel. But even so, I did this morning, and I was like, my goodness, like there was like three or four obvious things that we could do to dramatically increase or improve the quality of the experience for our users when they're on our website. Now, is my marketing team going to write all of that? No.
Oh,
It's going to be simple because most of it was the written word, right? Like there's one specific thing called out. It said, this page just isn't clear, right? We're not clear. And I have a feeling that's because somebody, was using the human brain versus the AI brain to write out the description of that page. So again, just a tangential thought. My notes are: number one, be curious; number two, all redundant tasks; three,
yes.
all communication, marketing, follow-up, etc. And then I also wrote down the big one is probably, all follow-up. All follow-up in the future is going to be done ideally by your AI, and it's probably going to be either, Sarah, this generic voice that is calling on your behalf, or you might just do it in your voice and actually call out, "Hey, this is Tom Ferry." Well, actually, it's Tom Ferry's AI. But Jason, I just wanted to reach out. 3 months ago, we had chatted about that's where it's going.
Well, so it's already, in many ways, it's already there.
There.
So
It's
11 Labs is most popular for allowing you to clone your own voice. And it is uncanny how, if you use their 11 Labs Pro voice clone, it sounds like you, as long as you feed it samples in the right way. Well, they've
Yes.
got their conversational assistant. So you can use 11 Labs. You can actually sync it over to your HeyGen video avatar. So now it looks like you and it sounds like you. But 11 Labs allows you to put voice chat on your website. Somebody can talk to you. You can actually connect it to automation tools like Zapier or N8N. And so you can actually have it start to fire off automations where it can make voicemail calls. So you could have 11 Labs working with Sly Broadcast. Now, I think it's a little bit murky in terms of, if you're here in the States, you got to look at the TCPA, you got to look at regulations and robocalling. And so we're going to have to find our footing in terms of what's lawful, what's not lawful, because we're literally inventing the future right now. But I agree, all your comms and follow up, it's going to be totally personalized to the customer you're talking to, and it's going to be enhanced by AI. Now, somebody might be watching or listening and thinking like, this is so sterile and stale and not me and disingenuous. To which I say, this is efficient. I think you got to change your perspective. If the goal is that my client never has a moment of wondering or wishing or uncertainty, and my communication plan was so ironclad that it would guide them from A to Z, start to finish, more people are going to want that process. And it goes back to the comment earlier about, you've got to start thinking about your services. This is how I serve buyers. This is how I serve sellers. This is how I serve investors, as packaged processes that they are subscribing to. And it's going to be a part. And that's where AI to me becomes this massive differentiator. Because think about this, Tom. A lot of teams have often said when they're talking to customers, well, what happens if you're working with a solo agent who they break their leg or something like that? And they start to say the strength of the team is that there's other people who can jump in. Well, think about the solo agent who can now be backed up by AI on so many fronts in terms of maintaining the process. I think you've got to start looking at that to be as the next level of enhancement for my clients, Tom, can I show you something related that I was working on this morning?
Yes, but before you do, I'm gonna say to my friend listening, everything that just Jason just said is absolutely accurate, but only if you want to grow.
Touche.
Right. If you say, I'm totally comfortable doing X number of transactions, and years ago, Tom Ferry, I was at an event and you said the artisan agent. I want to have that artisan experience, and my response is outstanding. Please do. Right. I mean,
Sure.
I would never, throw shade at that ever, 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 ever. And yet, redundancies and efficiency. That's all I think about. Like
I want to circle back to what you said. You're spending roughly 30 minutes a day doing deep research to deeply understand something in your niche, in your specialization using AI.
yes.
Um, Check this out. So we've talked about this before. Google has this tool called Notebook LM,
Yeah.
and if you click try Notebook LM, it's free. You don't have to pay for it. It's built into your Google membership. And if you're inside of it, this is what a notebook looks like, where you can add your sources. And they just added this new feature, Tom, where not only you have audio overviews, you have video overviews.
Oh.
And so check this out. I have two sources here.
Mhm.
I went to Grok and I did deep research, perform a complete historical briefing of the development of the 12 South Nashville neighborhood. And then it just gave me all of this ridiculous chronology and history of it. And then I just copied it and pasted it into my notebook.
Mhm.
Then I went to Claude and I uploaded all the sales from my MLS in the last 12 months. And I was like, I've attached this data for these two zip codes. It includes active residential listings, blah, blah, blah. Provide me with a thorough and accurate market report, please. And so it gives me this unbelievable market report.
Mhm.
So I just copied it and then I jump over and I paste it here. And then I click video overview. And if you look at the video overview, check this out. I'm going to let it load for a second here.
So let's talk about one of Nashville's most famous neighborhoods, 12 South. Yeah, you've probably seen it. It's got the trendy boutiques, all the great coffee shops, and of course, that iconic, I believe, they didn't just see it as a way to median time, a house.
So, like, the way I see this tool being useful is imagine training your team this way. So, we talked about leakage, we talked
100%.
about processes for a team. Imagine taking all your SOPs, literally just spilling onto a document all the gaps that you see as a sales manager and saying, I need a video that trains my agents on understanding this, and it's free. Imagine you're headed to a listing appointment or you're doing a market update video and, excuse me, a neighborhood tour video, and you want to know the history. Imagine having this to kind of give you the notes and use as the blueprint for how you make your own videos. I think we're moving into a world where learning is easy. It's completely flattened. You can know things rapidly, what you want to know without any kind of a delay. I mean, you saying people are like, wow, he spends 30 minutes a day on deep research. That's so hard. Well, how long would it have taken you before deep research to get to the same level of understanding on a topic? And the answer is hours, if not days, if not maybe perhaps never. I think you're right, Tom, that the agent of the future is enhanced by AI. They're looking at their systems, they're looking at their marketing, they're looking at the leakage, they're looking at their goals, and they're curious about it.
Yeah.
I think if you got into ChatGPT or whatever it was, and you just did a stream of consciousness prompt today that says, hey, we're filming this on August 11th, 2025, and I'm going to tell you about my business. It's this, it's this, it's this. I feel like this, I feel like that. Uh, if you were starting my business today with an AI enhanced company, what would you do differently? And then just let it tell you. Let it tell you what it would do differently. Believe it or not, that's the prompt I used or a version of that for AI Marketing Academy. And that one conversation has fueled the last 3 months of innovation inside of the academy that we're focused on because it was what sparked the possibilities of what if we acted like AI was a real thing and we started to inject it in our businesses.
Right. It's beautiful. My mind always has 100 extra thoughts, and we actually promised our listener today that we would do a short show.
We're still under 45 minutes.
Notebook LM new video feature is fascinating. So I'm going to give a hot take for my friend that's listening who maybe has a 15, 16, 17-year-old that would like some side hustle money, or they have a marketing director, and it would be I would take exactly what Jason just did in terms of the areas that you serve, right? Could be subdivisions, could be cities, however you want to carve up your market. And again, remember, personalization is key, right? It's nice to know that in Dallas that the average sales price is this, but that doesn't really resonate for the building that I live in. So
Hmm.
you said high rises in Dallas are trading for this. You're speaking more my language. So I
Yeah.
would say to you, could you take, some segments of your market and literally on a monthly basis start publishing very detailed market reports in
Oh,
text, on your blog, in
yep.
audio, and now on video?
Uh,
I mean, my goodness, from a GEO and SEO standpoint, if that was then published also once a month on your LinkedIn page, it was also published on your Google business page with a map associated to it. Jason, you and I both know what's going to happen. We are in a race right now to see who can be first and who can be fast.
yeah.
I told you, and I'm not going to say the person's name, but I'll just say this person very regularly for the last 7 years has generated anywhere between 12 to $20 million in gross commission income. And he's
Mhm.
more of an individual agent than a team, in case you're wondering. And he literally texted me over the weekend and he said, I don't know what to do. One of my clients went on ChatGPT and said, who's the best agent to list within this market? And I'm not on the list. And I have significant market share. Whoever's first and fast right now, it's first mover advantage, right? Like that's what it is. So I know you have 1,000 more thoughts on this,
I sure do.
but Jason, I'm gonna pause you and say,
Zip
so
my lips. We'll see you on the next one.
yes, 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 yes. So hey, thank you, my friend that is out there listening. If you haven't liked and subscribed the show, I don't think we've asked you for that yet. It would certainly mean the world to us as we build this. And if we got a review from you, that would be fantastic as well. So Jason, appreciate you always. I'll see you next week. I'm sure I'll talk to you multiple times between now and then. And for my friend out there watching, let's keep growing. See you soon.